in this context, it's this one. A lot of people are craving that type of hint.
Two toes right next to each other that mean different things, right? Definitely like word blindness that happens after a while. If I can just be a programmer here.
Go for it.
Yeah, it took a little doing.
皆さんこんにちは。KemushiChanの Loretta です。We are here in Akihabara, the hub of all things sparkly and digital. Today I wanted to introduce someone who has taken the Japanese language learning experience and made it digital and sparkly and new. This is Brian.
I'm from Seattle and here visiting my wife's family actually right now, and also taking the opportunity to sync up with some of our team members who are in Japan.
Brian is actually from the Satori Reader team, which is an amazing app software resource that you can use to make learning fun. When you look at Satori Reader, you'll find Japanese through stories and through voices and through people. It's a very warm approach to Japanese, unlike your standard textbook. You can study vocabulary and you can do like spaced repetition to make sure you're not slacking like I know I do. I'll put the links below. I'm really interested in the software, but I'm also really interested in how it even came to be, kind of like the origin story.
It was about 2015 when we first started working on Satori Reader, and we had Human Japanese and Human Japanese Intermediate already out there. And at the time, I was also doing a lot of reading. It was so effective and also just a magical feeling to know that you're being drawn into a story that you're reading in a language that is not your first language.
Right?
There's always like a little bit of a, look, Ma, you know.
I'm doing it.
So we wanted to be able to share that feeling with people.
Yeah.
If there's some way that we can make it easier for people to do that, that would be great.
The hard part with Japanese is that what you learn in a textbook for textbook Japanese is not what you get when you read a book. Like, I just studied so much.
How come everyone's talking different?
Why is everyone talking like, what are these words? Like, who's your favorite author, or who was your favorite author?
Sure. One that I have read a lot of is Higashi no Keigo. Is a mystery writer.
This explains why there are certain stories on Satori Reader. Okay, there's definitely some mysteries in there.
There might be a little bit of influence. I think when I first started getting into him, I wanted to work on being able to sort of follow a logical progression, a little bit better, and I thought a mystery would be a great way to do it. But he writes in a way that's pretty easy to understand, and I would say it's right at the right level for if someone were graduating from the stuff we have on Satori Reader. Yeah. It's pretty approachable.
My favorite author, I had a couple, Yoshimoto Banana, and the other one was Natsume Soseki.
Okay, yeah.
And both of these are very stylized in their writing. I could ask my sensei in high school, but I didn't really have someone who I could bother on a regular basis.
One of the very first novels that I read or tried to was Kokoro by Natsume Soseki. And I remember getting to a certain point where I was like, I have no idea what's going on here, and I'm not even really sure where I lost the trail, you know? The problem is that it takes so long to look stuff up, and especially back in the olden days where everything was paper. I mean, remember how long it took to look up kanji back with a paper dictionary?
Oh gosh, it was like you had to know the stroke order and you had to know the radicals before you could look it up. It was like chicken and egg. Yeah. For years.
There's a lot of great resources on the web. Japanese.stackexchange.com is...
you're full of all sorts of... Okay, there's like a treasure trove.
That's one of my favorite resources for like accurate information. You always have the problem of, I'm reading in this exact context, and you just throw out a question to someone who has no sense of that. You're not sure if they're really going to be able to give you an answer that's specific to that context. It's so nice to be able to actually be kind of going through a text with someone. Yeah, we tried to create that experience for people.
You guys have a lot of stories, but everything that's on Satori Reader is original?
Yeah, we produce everything in-house. Yeah.
My gosh.
We want to control for the difficulty level.
Definitely.
And we want to produce content that is the kind of content that an adult would be interested in.
Japanese is huge. When you're deciding what stories to make, how do you decide what's important? How do you decide what to include, what to leave out? How do you create a language learning material for other language learners?
We like to produce stuff that introduces cultural elements. Kabe no Ana takes place, in this traditional home, kind of in a countryside environment, and it gives people a chance who are not necessarily living in Japan to experience that a little bit. Like when the main character goes to school and she has to change into her uabaki.
Yeah.
So that's like a totally different experience. We like to include that kind of thing. I mean, that's the power of a novel generally, to be able to be in somebody else's mind.
Definitely.
To be able to do that in another language is so awesome.
What makes a story is so good is when you're immersed in it, when you forget that you're reading. When you have to stop all the time, it kind of ruins that experience.
Yeah, exactly. So making those resources as integrated as possible is a big part of making sure that people actually use them.
What specifically does Satori Reader offer that is kind of different from a book?
So all of our audio is acted by professional voice actors. We have a team here in Tokyo.
Yeah.
We also have some people in Seattle that are fantastic.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Especially for people who are living outside of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
There's a danger of you getting super finely attuned to the way that one person speaks.
Yep.
Your teacher or your spouse or a friend, and then you hear anybody else's Japanese and it's totally foreign. So it's nice to have that variety of different voices. We have a story coming up with a grandpa, and
oh, that would be great. There's a lot of wonderfully seasoned people in Japan here, and a lot of us encounter these seasoned wise elders and don't know how to understand or communicate. So,
oh man,
if I can, my neighbor next door, if I can have a good conversation, then this is good.
Awesome. Something that we're really excited about, a first for us. The series is called Okuniko.
Okuniko.
So Nikko, of course, is the beautiful part of Japan where people like to go for hot springs and to see the autumn colors.
Yeah.
And Okuniko is if you kind of take this mountain road deeper up into the mountains.
Yeah.
And so that's the setting for the story. But there are two big firsts for us.
Yeah.
The first is that every voice in the story has its own actor. There's 6 different voice actors who participated.
6. That really takes it from kind of like audiobook more towards like theater.
And then the other thing that we're really excited about is this is our first series ever to have sound effects, like background sound effects. It adds this 3-dimensional quality to it.
Are these native sounds? Because there's a very different sound to the woods in the States versus like the Japanese, like the crows here sound very different.
The studio that did the sound effects for us is here in Tokyo. So So actually I have a clip that I can play for you. All right, you ready?
Okay, I'm going in, guys. You know what this reminds me of? Almost sounds like a Ghibli type of thing. When you watch Ghibli, you are in Ghibli. You're not watching it. You're like in the world very quickly. And already, it just feels completely more immersive than the other stories that I've listened to.
Ghibli, actually, it's kind of an inspiration for us. Very often kind of brings back this older Japan kind of sense, right? And it starts out through the eyes of a child, and that child kind of progresses to an adolescent, like maybe a 15-year-old. So that's another place where we're trying to expand the total repertoire of Japanese that we're showing people.
Yeah, ages as well.
Yeah.
I know that we added the speed function for the audio, not being able to slow things down.
Yeah, and some people wanted to speed up too.
Speed up.
Yeah, so over the next year, it's really content. We've been publishing 3 new episodes every week without fail since December 2016, which is when we started that.
Oh my gosh, you guys are better than I am at keeping a calendar.
In some sense, it seems like a small amount of content, but
No.
so much effort goes into every episode.
I'm sure. My dad's a sound engineer. He loves to say this. Just a 3-minute song can take weeks to record, and that's just the audio piece. Sure. Was it hard coding in terms of like software? You started with like a browser software that you mentioned.
I think it's a lot easier now than it used to be in terms of the actual mechanics of presenting Japanese reliably.
Yeah.
Before, Japanese fonts were just automatically available on everyone's device. So in Human Japanese, actually, in one of the earlier versions, I just created pictures of every hiragana character and like typeset them essentially. I had a little some code to just typeset out all my sentences. That problem is pretty much a thing of the past. What we have really invested a lot of time and effort into is trying to figure out how to bring the power of software to language and also produce accurate results. As programmers, we want to think, create rules that apply universally.
Everything fits a pattern and scales.
Exactly. What we've done instead is find the places that a human might make mistakes and make it easier to find and fix those, or just to prevent them from happening. For example, we have this really extensive proofreading process. One of the things that I strongly feel with a language resource is you need to be as close to 100% accurate as possible. That's really hard to do when there are human beings in the loop. So if there's even one mistake in a dictionary, right? You're like, wait a minute, can I trust
no.
anything that I read? You have a lot more doubt, right? We really work hard to aim for accuracy. It's a way that we try to set ourselves apart from just the automated browser plugins and stuff like that, which they're really useful if you're at the level where you're still depending on the resource to help tell you and teach you what's correct. That's really super frustrating. One thing that we added recently was this new system to help us catch the kind of mistakes that a person might make just from human fatigue. So, for example, when we annotate the text by attaching the dictionary definitions to each word, we don't just attach the entire definition, we actually attach the sense that's being used in the context. The particle to has 5 or 6 different uses. It can mark a quotation, it can be used as a part of the conditional, it can just mean and, when we mark to and we attach it to the dictionary, we mark which sense is actually being used right here. So, I mean, you could imagine a sentence that has 2 toes right next to each other that mean different things, right? This is something that right now a machine would never be able to do properly. That's something that I think a human can do with a pretty good accuracy level as long as they're paying attention. And sometimes just fatigue sets in and you pick the wrong one. Definitely like word blindness that happens after a while. You're like, okay. So we created this tool in our proofreading process that actually allows you to group together all of the places that are being used in the same sense and highlight them all. It allows you to very quickly take a look and go, okay, these are all the toes that mean and you can go, chichi to haha, neko to inu. Okay, that's all right. Yeah, that's right. I was really lucky to go to high school in Japan when I was 17, and even luckier that high school had next door to it a middle school. Having freshly arrived from America, I had 2 years of high school Japanese under my belt, but that was definitely not enough to follow along with high school Japanese, like the kokugo class, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they had me attend some of my classes with the middle schoolers, which was actually a lot of fun. They were like super competitive. Every week there's a kanji test, right? Just like we have spelling tests in the US. It's like, which stroke is highlighted here, what's the stroke number, or, I was studying kanji like crazy and trying to like catch up. It was a huge thing for me. In my little book, when I hit like 881, which was like 6th grade level, I was like, yes! I wrote I wrote the date in, but like the kid next to me was he wanted so bad to beat me at a kanji test.
Gotta keep up.
On the very last test before I went back to the States, I was like, okay, listen, if you win this one, the whole year is yours. As I was doing the test, I knew that I was going to get 100%. I figured I'd just miss one so that he had a chance. And sure enough, he got 100%.
He did? Oh
yes,
my gosh.
He was just pumping his fist, so happy. Probably still remembers this. No. I like to imagine. Yeah. But that experience was a lot of fun too, because the teacher of that class, like a good teacher, remembered what it was like to be at the stage where you still don't know everything. He would kind of, ask people, hey, what do you think this means? And that was such a great experience. That was definitely one of the things I wanted to try to reproduce in Satori Reader. The classroom feeling of going through an interesting story together with someone. Share those moments where you really felt excited to finally to get things and to be in that flow.
You definitely have some great content out there.
Thank you.
Every week, apparently.
Yeah, three episodes a week. We're actually thinking about maybe going back, depending on what people think about the sound effects, and like remastering some of the content that's already out there. And I think Kona's Big Adventure would be perfect. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, I'm really curious what you guys think about the immersive sound effects experience.
Dial them up, dial them down. For every episode, there are 2 versions. If I can just be a programmer here.
Go for it.
Yeah, it took a little doing.
I'm sure it did.
Because there's a feature under the covers called audio cross-linking. Each episode has a version with sound effects and one with just the speaking.
Dialogue. Okay.
Yeah. And we did that for a couple reasons. If you were still at the stage where you're just kind of like trying to get your arms around the vocabulary, maybe focus just on the words, and then as a reward to yourself, maybe later come back. And
that's great. It's so much better if you can do it multiple times.
Oh, man. Yeah.
The first time, obviously, to get maybe a sight reading experience, then dive in, look more closely at the words that you missed, and then after that, the more times you repeat the same content, the more you'll start to actually like internalize these words and be able to start mimicking and start really shadowing these characters that you're listening to. And if you can add on the sound effects at that point, make those repetitions more interesting.
And when you create a flashcard and you add it to your study list, it takes along that sentence and audio into the review card system. It automatically uses the version without sound effects.
That's good to know.
When you're in the reviews.
One question, do you ever see creating specific materials for like the JLPT? I have a lot of people who watch these videos and they love fresh, good, warm content, but they want to make sure that they're still getting close to their end goal.
Absolutely, yeah. We're working toward that very much in the near future. For example, in terms of vocabulary.
Definitely.
So actually, it's something I have my designer working on some UI stuff right now. But where each series would have a little pull down that would say like what percentage of the vocabulary in its entire series is like, you know, N1 vocabulary, N2 vocabulary.
See, and now I know the Reddit guys are gonna love that. People are asking about you, not you, but about the apps. What kind of level do we expect from each story? So I know people they're waiting.
I know that there is a demand for it, and we hear you. Yeah, we're working on it.
When this video comes out, there's kind of something special going on?
Yes, well, it's in the whole Cyber Monday, Black Friday kind of season. Try to make it worth your while if you're thinking about signing up.
Because to sign up, you can sign up for free, but to get the good stuff,
That's right.
you got to dig in your pockets.
Yeah. Support us, be a subscriber. We work really hard every week.
I'm a total fan, so if you have any questions about sort of like Cyber Monday stuff, or just about the app in general, or if you have any questions about sound effects, suggestions, things, whatever it may be, obviously you can leave it in a comment below, but you can also tweet. I know that like the team is very warm and open to suggestions and ideas. We are all learning language together, and this is your chance to make sure you're getting the most out of language. So leave a comment, leave a question, whatever it may be. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
This was so much. I'm really glad to put a face to the entire experience. So thank you for coming, and we'll see you guys in the comments. Okay, bye.